Hi everyone, I'm Callie Kim. The summer garden is in full swing, but a lot of gardeners, and maybe you're one of them, stop planting in July, either because you think it's too late in the growing season, or maybe you're discouraged because of all the heat and the pests that are ruining your vegetables. But I'm going to show you 5 vegetables that you need to plant in July, why you can plant them now, and also as a bonus, 3 ways to plant them that you might not have thought about. For those of you that think it's too late in the growing season, it's really not. The key to these vegetables that you're going to plant in July is that they're easy to grow, quick growing, grow from seed to harvest in about 6 to 8 weeks. So that way you can still get a harvest late in the summer and even into the fall before the temperatures get too cold for them. I like to call this my late summer garden. The first crop you must plant in July are tomatoes. And the reason why this one can work is because it's a dwarf variety, so it's a smaller plant, a determinate variety tomato, so it goes from seed to harvest in about 60 days, and determinate tomatoes produce all their crop at once, so that way you have a good late crop of tomatoes in August or September. As opposed to the large indeterminate varieties that I have here on my tomato string trellis, take 90 days to harvest, and it's really too late in the growing season to plant those. But determinate varieties of tomato are perfect to plant now. Maybe one reason you haven't planted in July is because you don't think you have the space. You don't want to set up a whole new raised bed or a new planter, but you actually do. It's hidden in plain sight. And that's strategy number 1 for planting in July, is look for spots in your garden where you might have holes or gaps where you can tuck plants in. For example, I just trimmed back this big chard plant right here. It was going to seed, and it opened up a little hole here in my garden, a little gap here in my garden between my 2 existing Tiny Tim plants. Now I already dug the hole just to save time on the video, but it's a perfect spot to pop Tiny Tim because it only grows to about 2 feet tall. And that way, when this Tiny Tim is done producing, because it's a determinate plant, it's going to grow to a set size and then produce most of its crop at once. It'll be done in a couple of months. I'll have a brand new plant to take its place with fresh new tomatoes to harvest. So I've got my hole dug already. Just going to mend the soil a little bit, my homemade compost, touch of granular organic fertilizer. I'm just going to pop Tiny Tim right in the hole. Now this is a beautiful little transplant. I started from seed indoors about 6 weeks ago, but you can actually start from seed right now too. I'll tell you more about that later in the video. So easy to plant, perfect for harvesting late in the summer. Other great determinate varieties are Oregon Spring Hill. It's a good colder tolerant variety for later season harvests, or Golden Nugget. Tiny Tim seeds are in my late summer garden seed collection. One thing I love about Tiny Tim too is you don't have to set up a big huge tomato cage. A small little tomato cage will work fine. It's only about a 2-foot tall plant, but it really packs a punch. Lots and lots of tomatoes from Tiny Tim. Crop number 2 is basil. And here I have another little hole in my garden bed, which is a perfect spot to pop a few more plants. Now I do have some transplants again, which I started from seed indoors, but you don't have to start from seeds indoors. You can just plant seeds right here in your garden bed. One of my favorite basil varieties is also in my late summer garden seed collection. Brand new, just added it, and it's called Prospera Compact Basil. And here's an example of it right here. It is an absolutely beautiful basil variety. One reason why I love it so much is it's resistant to disease. Now a lot of times disease pops in your garden here late in the summer or mid-summer time, but not with this one. It's a gorgeous variety, quickly grows, and is resistant to bolting, which a lot of times when it gets too hot in the summertime, your basil will flower and bolt and go to seed. But this is a little pelleted seed, it's called, so it makes it super easy to plant and just drop right into your garden bed. And just quickly cover the seeds up. With the warm weather we're having, it'll sprout within a couple of weeks, and you'll be harvesting basil on and on into the late summer and into the fall. You can also start from transplant, like I have here. And basil likes a little bit of dappled sunlight, so this is a perfect spot for it. It's partially shaded, but gets just enough sun to produce some beautiful basil leaves. And these basil leaves are absolutely delicious, and we're going to be harvesting them in no time. Do you gardeners mind if I break script for just a moment and share a really important tip with you? I think it's super important that you know this when you're transplanting in August. Mama Bear Pam left a comment about this on our YouTube live stream. And by the way, don't miss our live streams on Monday at noon Pacific time. But she said, every time I put transplants in the ground from Home Depot, they die. What's wrong? Well, what you need to do here in July, because it is so hot, when you're putting transplants in your garden bed, use shade cloth to cover them for a couple of days until the roots get established in the ground so they don't burn up in the heat. And I've been doing this for the past couple of years, and it really does make a difference to helping your transplants get off to a good start, so you have plants instead of dead plants. What shade cloth does is it blocks out a percentage of the sun's UV rays, so your plants are protected, and then once they get their roots established, you can uncover them and let them have the full sunlight to grow. Secured it with bricks here at the top, and then clipping it to a nearby trellis with these binder clips. The third vegetable you have to plant in July is squash. Squash grows so fast and you can harvest it at the end of July if you plant some now. The second strategy to planting right now is to plant in containers, either with containers that are kind of reaching the end of their life, like this one is here, or plant in a fresh new container. Now, sometimes it's a whole lot easier to start over with a new plant than it is to try and save a struggling plant. And these beans here are getting really beaten up from the heat, so I'm going to take them out and plant some new squash plants here in this 20-gallon Smart Pot. We've been harvesting off these for a couple of months. Some lettuce that's bolting and going to seed. A few little bonus harvests here at the end of their life. Plant a new squash plant in this container, give it a fresh new look, and have fresh new veggies to harvest. So I've got some of the spent bean plants removed. I ended up leaving a couple of them in that are still producing pretty well and don't look too bad. And I'm going to amend my garden bed with some compost here and a little sprinkle of organic fertilizer. Always important to put extra little food in the hole here when you're planting again. So I'm going to pop in one of my scallop squash. And by the way, these are from my late summer garden seed collection. I have a whole line of 30 seed collections grouped by season or by vegetable. So as the bean plants here are finishing up, I'll have a new scallop squash to take its place and to harvest and enjoy in the late summer. Another little bonus tip to help your transplants survive the summer heat. Make sure that you really heavily mulch your plants. About 2 inches of mulch on top of the soil will help them retain moisture and survive the summer heat. Here I'm using a shredded straw mulch, which will help reduce water evaporation too, so you don't have to water as much. Squash are also very easy to plant from seed this time of the year, and the great thing is they grow so fast because the weather is so warm. Here I've got a container of squash, zucchini squash, and I'm going to pop some scallop squash seeds from my late summer garden seed collection right in the middle, so that way when these zucchini are all done, we've got another beautiful little seedlings popping up to take its place. So this strategy is called succession planting. If you're a new gardener, you might have heard that term and not known what it means. It just means you're planting in succession at intervals to spread your harvest out and to keep them rolling in. So I'm just going to pop some seeds here right in the middle, just push them down in. It's so easy, about a ½ inch or so into the soil. A very easy strategy to keep planting in July and be harvesting all summer. Vegetable number 4 are beans. Now you all know how much I love beans, and they are a power producer just like squash. And if you don't have an existing container already that you're planting and you're pulling things out, just grab a new container and pop some bean seeds in. Again, they pop up super fast when the weather is warm. 70 to 90 degrees. I absolutely love the July heat. So you can just pop some seeds right in your container here, put them down in the hole about a ½ inch or so. These are beautiful dwarf Taylor bean. They're a cream-colored bean with purple speckles. Absolutely delicious and so pretty to add to your July garden. And the cool thing about Smart Pot's 5-gallon containers is you can easily pick them up, move them into the shade or into the sun, depending on what your weather is. And before you know it, your beans are going to be popping up looking something like this. You'll be harvesting them in about 6 weeks. And it's so much easier to plant a new wave of fresh, healthy vegetables rather than trying to stay a struggling vegetable like the ones I just pulled out in my blue Smart Pot. You can start your tomato seeds exactly the same way. Save yourself the time of setting up your grow lights again this time of the year. Just drop yourself a few seeds in each one of the 6-pack seed cells and you are good to go. Vegetable number 5 is cucumbers. I absolutely love a garden fresh cucumber, especially during the dog days of summer. Don't you agree? And one of my very favorite cucumbers is Diva cucumber. And the third strategy that you can use to plant in July is to plant in little 6-packs. And the cool thing is you don't have to start them from seed indoors under grow lights. It's warm enough here this month. You can just pop your seeds in the 6-packs and then let them germinate right outside in your garden or on your deck or patio. And then once you're pulling out plants that are past the end of their life, you have transplants to pop in to take their place. So the Diva cucumber is just an absolutely amazing variety. So productive. It's called a parthenocopic cucumber, which means that it doesn't need bees in order to pollinate. It's got mostly female flowers, and it grows the most delicious thin-skinned cucumbers you've ever had. And I've just added this seed variety to my late summer garden seed collection. So now you can grab them over at CallieKimGardeningHome.com and grow them yourself. So I'm just popping a couple of seeds in each 6-pack, just poking them down about 1/4 inch into the soil, and we'll have lots of new cucumbers to take our old cucumbers' place when they're dying out in about a month. Now your seeds are going to pop up quickly and grow here in July. And in just a couple of weeks, you'll have some little transplants that'll look something like this. Little tip here, when you're starting seeds in your 6-packs outdoors, place them in an area where they get only morning sun and then afternoon shade. That way they don't dry out quite as much, keeps your plants from getting overheated, and they're going to be a lot healthier for it. And you skip the step of hardening off when you start them in 6-packs outdoors. They're already growing outside, so it makes it that much easier for you to succession plant in your garden. I decided to add one bonus crop to plant in July because I absolutely love planting for the pollinators. We want to keep the bees around in our late summer garden, so I'm going to plant some sunflowers. One of my favorite varieties for my sunflower seed collection is the Teddy Bear sunflower. It's a nice, compact, about a 2-foot sunflower. It grows super quickly, and pop some in here in your 6-pack. And I'm actually going to pop them in my garden bed in about a month or so when some of my zinnias are coming to an end. And I'll have a fresh, new, beautiful Teddy Bear sunflowers to take their place. And the pollinators will continue to keep coming to my garden. Let me know which of these vegetables you'll be planting with me in July. I suggest you plant all of them so we can keep the harvest rolling in the late summer into the fall. I'll be reading the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.